This isn't a festival stage, and not some movie scene either. What you see here is a real Romani funeral. It lasts for days and looks more like a celebration than mourning. There's music, dancing, and tables heavy with food, all so that sorrow doesn't weigh down the soul on its way to the other side. And when it's time to say the final goodbye, the coffin isn't empty of meaning. People place inside the things the deceased loved. A phone, a gold chain, sometimes even a game console. Yes, a PlayStation next to the body. Not a parody, but a real detail of today's Roma traditions. Because even in the next world, leisure matters. The Roma are a people always on the move, strangers everywhere they go. They have no state of their own, but live by an unwritten code. In this story, we'll follow their road, from the plains of India to the heart of Byzantium, from ragged encampments to palaces worth tens of millions. We'll see why they avoid taxes, why weddings at 12 don't surprise anyone, and why the funeral of a Romani leader can look grander than a celebrity's wedding. For centuries, they were pushed to the margins, feared, distrusted. Yet they never disappeared. Who are the Roma, really? Where do their roots lie? And why, even today, do so many nations see them as unwanted outsiders? For a long time, their origins were wrapped in myths. Some said they came from Egypt. Serious. Which is why the word Gypsies stuck from Egyptians. Others imagined them as sorcerers from Byzantium or nomads from the Far East. But modern genetics finally cleared the fog. Their journey began in India, sometime between the 3rd and 5th centuries. And to understand their path, we need to remember how ancient Indian society worked. It was split into castes, a rigid hierarchy. At the top, Brahmins, the priests and scholars, treated as sacred. Then, Kshatriyas, warriors and rulers. Below them, Vaishyas, merchants and craftsmen. Almost at the bottom, Shudras, the laborers. And beneath even that, the untouchables. They weren't allowed near the higher castes, as if their very presence was a stain. Their jobs were the most despised, cleaning latrines, removing carcasses, tanning hides, handling waste. It was from this desperate stratum, with no way out, that the ancestors of today's Roma emerged. When they first appeared in Europe, people saw them as Christian refugees from the East. They were treated kindly, offered help, and looked at with curiosity. Bright clothes, unusual songs, and their nomadic way of life felt exotic. But fascination quickly turned into suspicion. They had no papers, refused to pay taxes, and didn't settle anywhere permanently. Their lifestyle clashed with the new order of states, and persecution began. Out of restrictions grew legends. People said Roma kidnapped children, spread the plague, cursed neighbors, even ate human flesh. Yes, even cannibalism was among the accusations. So the image of colorful travelers twisted into that of social enemies. But the stereotype of criminality is false. Records from Byzantium and the Ottoman Empire show the Roma broke laws no more than anyone else. The real disaster came in Western Europe. From the 15th century onward, the noose tightened. They were banned from their trades, barred from working, left with no way to survive. In Prussia, Roma over 18 could be executed just for existing. In Sweden, death without trial. In France, mass expulsions. In Spain, attempts at forced assimilation. And then came the 18th century. Spain tried something radical. King Charles III demanded that Roma intermarry with Spaniards, drop their clothes, take Castilian surnames. Assimilation, at least on paper. But instead of unity, it turned into a nightmare. In 1749 came the infamous Great Gypsy Roundup. In one day, more than 12,000 Roma across Spain were arrested. Men were thrown into forced labor, women and children locked away in convents and prisons. France went another way. They turned Roma into a sideshow. At fairs, they weren't invited as musicians, but displayed like curiosities. Serious, people didn't pay to enjoy the songs. They paid to gawk at the wild human dancing, pulling tricks, chanting in a language no one understood. And when survival in Western Europe became unbearable, Roma communities kept moving, this time east. In Poland, Lithuania, Russia, and the Balkans, the reception was calmer. In the Russian Empire, Roma carved out their niches. Women read fortunes or performed on stage. Men mended tools, shoed horses, or worked as blacksmiths. But Romania was different. There, life was brutally harsh. Roma were legally enslaved, owned by monasteries, landlords, even the crown itself. They could be bought and sold like cattle. Slavery ended only in 1856. The Ottoman Empire, by contrast, gave them space to breathe. Roma could travel freely, trade, and even convert to Islam, often more for convenience than conviction. Religion, in general, was pragmatic. In Russia, they might be Orthodox, in Poland, Catholic, in Turkey, Muslim. But beneath all that, their own traditions stayed alive. Then came the Soviet Union, and with it, a new kind of struggle. The wanderers under the stars suddenly became problematic citizens in a system obsessed with order. Every person needed a registered address, a job, a place in the 5-year plan. Where, in that model, was there room for camps, fortune-telling, and songs by the fire? The official answer: collective farms. Starting in the 1920s, the state created 52 Roma-specific collectives. Families were given land plus cash, 500 to 1,000 rubles each, in the hope they'd settle down and farm. Some agreed, but most stayed in their camps. Official stats show only about 5% of nomadic Roma became farmers, and even then, often just on paper. By 1933, famine drove dozens of camps into Moscow, where Roma settlements already dotted the city. With the introduction of internal passports, the authorities moved to cleanse the capital of undesirable elements. That summer alone, around 5,500 Roma were deported to Siberia. Before World War II, the total number exiled passed 10,000, and yet not all resisted. Some Roma joined the Red Army, fought in partisan units. 11 of them were awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union. And ironically, it was the rigid Soviet passport system that finally ended their nomadic way of life. By force, they became sedentary. Traditions faded, but many elders still look back at the late USSR as a time of stability, even peace. For most nations, order comes from state laws. Among the Roma, it comes from tradition. No judges, no police. Instead, the elders, and above them, the baron. Inside the community, his word is the law. If he declares someone banished, they're gone. If he forgives, the matter is closed. Disputes aren't settled in courtrooms, but in open yards. Families gather in a circle, both sides are heard, and a verdict is delivered. This gathering has a name: the Kris, the Roma court. The harshest punishment in Roma life isn't a beating or a prison sentence. It's exile. You're not locked up, you're erased. No greetings, no open doors, not even a handshake. For a people where one household can hold 10, 20, sometimes 30 relatives, being cast out is like losing the ground under your feet. It's social death. Privacy? Almost non-existent. Everyone knows everyone else's business. Women's roles are strictly drawn. They don't sit at the same table with men, and a misplaced word can bring discipline, sometimes more than just words. In some families, it's still accepted that a husband can correct his wife. The reasoning? It's always been this way. Some young Roma dream of breaking free, to study, to travel, to see another world. But the circle of the community is tight. Step too far outside it, and you risk being dragged back or cut off completely. Education exists, but only selectively. Girls are rarely sent to school. Their path is marriage, children, household duties. Boys might get a few years of schooling, but by 10, they're expected to earn and help the family. Try to go beyond that and you risk losing your place among your own people. Hierarchy runs everything. There are rich families and everyone else. The poor give a share of their income to the wealthy, not in resentment, but in belief. The strong should protect the weak. It's seen not as exploitation, but as a pact. Break it, and you cut yourself off from the entire community. And for a Roma, life outside the community is hardly life at all. Isolation has its price. For some camps, survival meant theft, smuggling, drugs. By the late 20th century, newspapers across France, Germany, Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan started using a new phrase: the Roma Mafia. Reports tied certain groups to organized heroin trade. But even this has a backstory. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Roma lost the trades that had sustained them: blacksmithing, petty commerce, fortune-telling. Legal opportunities shrank, doors closed. And when there's no work, no school, no ladder to climb, people follow the money wherever it flows, even into crime. But the stereotype of the thieving gypsy is still a lie. Roma by nature are among the most peaceable peoples. Their most enduring institution isn't crime, it's the fortune-teller. And if you think fortune-telling is just a tourist trick, you've never stepped into a Roma camp. There, a fortune-teller is counselor, mediator, sometimes almost an oracle. People come not just to ask about love or family, but to confirm decisions they've already made. The role is inherited. A fortune-teller's daughter usually becomes the next one. And with the role comes real influence. Some whisper that their words can even sway a baron's verdict. Not through magic, but because in a close-knit world, belief and fear are powerful forces. And if funerals are about farewell, Roma weddings are about spectacle. In most cultures, weddings are about romance. For the Roma, they're contracts, alliances, and public declarations of strength. Marriages happen shockingly young, 12, 13, 14. Families see it as insurance. The earlier the wedding, the less chance a girl will dishonor herself. In a world where reputation is everything, that's worth more than personal happiness. Not for a day, but several. sometimes a week. Everyone comes, kin, neighbors, even estranged relatives who haven't been seen in years. The bride gleams in gold, her gowns rival Dubai fashion shows, and the halls shake with music, dance, and gifts, from electronics to washing machines. A Roma wedding doesn't whisper they're in love, it shouts, "Look who we are!" For many girls, marriage at 12 or 13 means motherhood at 14. By 25, some are already grandmothers. Families see it as a shield, protecting their daughters from scandal, preserving the clan's honor. And in a society where the community always comes before the individual, honor outweighs happiness. After the wedding, the next great ceremony isn't birth, it's death. But a Roma funeral is not quiet mourning. It's song, laughter, and memory. The body is washed with herbal infusions, dressed in festive clothes, and honored as though heading to one last celebration. For several days, family and friends gather, drink, sing, tell stories, as if the departed were still sitting among them. And the grave? It's no simple mound of earth. In just a week, a marble or stone chamber rises. Inside go the things that mattered in life: money, jewelry, cigarettes, liquor, blankets. Surprised. Sometimes even a television or a PlayStation? Serious. Yes, a PlayStation in a coffin is no urban legend. Thoughtful. It's how the Roma carry life's pleasures into eternity. The price of such a farewell? Serious. Anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000. For many families, this isn't extravagance. Thoughtful. It's sacred duty. Sad. To bury with honor means to prove love, to uphold dignity, and sometimes to show the world they are not less than others. Today, Roma communities are scattered across nearly all of Europe. Globally, about 18 million people identify as Roma, with roughly 10 million living in Europe alone. The largest populations are in Romania and Bulgaria. Serious. And after those countries entered the EU, open borders carried waves of Roma migration even further west. And then there's Soroca in Moldova. Thoughtful. Often called the Roma capital. A hillside of palaces with domes, columns, statues, even a replica of the U.S. Capitol. Serious. Behind gilded gates you find a paradox: unpaved streets, unfinished walls, poverty wrapped in marble. Thoughtful. The houses aren't built for comfort, they're built for status. Architecture without architects. Most of the year, Soroca feels quiet because many residents work abroad. But on big days, Easter or International Roma Day on April 8th, happy, the streets explode with color and music. Families return, palaces open their doors, and for a brief time, thoughtful, the city glows with that unique Roma sense of belonging. And Soroca is not alone. Just across the border in Romania lies Buzescu. Serious, a place that looks like someone mixed Versailles, Dubai, and a Las Vegas stage set, then dropped it all on a single hill. The houses are bizarre and proud. Domes, crown-shaped roofs, windows cut into hearts. On the facades, not family crests, but logos of Versace, Mercedes, Louis Vuitton. Step inside, though, and you might find an old fridge from the 90s and a rusty bed frame. Thoughtful, because here what matters is the exterior. Another trick? Many houses are officially left unfinished. No glass in the windows, no tiles on the roof. Why? Serious, because until construction is done, property taxes don't apply. Thoughtful. A clever loophole. Nothing to the state, everything in gold. But Roma life is not only palaces. The other extreme, lies in Slovakia, in Koszyce's infamous Lunik 9 district. Sirius, Europe's most notorious Roma ghetto. Officially, 6,500 people live here, though in reality it's closer to 10,000. 10 or 15 in one apartment is common. Sad. Utilities were cut long ago for unpaid bills. No water, no heating, no electricity. Garbage piles up. Diseases like hepatitis and scabies spread unchecked. Serious. Even bus drivers get hazard pay for entering the district. Thoughtful. That's the Roma reality, from gilded mansions to collapsing ghettos. One side flaunts luxury, the other survives in neglect.
So, who are the Roma? A people without a state, without a single flag, without a unified tongue, and yet with a history stretching back over 1,000 years. They survived what erased others: burnings, hangings, slavery, mass expulsions, forced assimilation. And still they remain. The world has tried again and again to reshape them, to settle them, teach them, turn them into normal citizens. But here's the truth. The Roma don't dream of being normal by anyone else's definition. They have their own sense of normal, their own truth, their own family structures, their own rules of belonging. And for outsiders, no matter how much time passes, the line stays sharp. You may come close, but you will never fully be one of them.